Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pageant Project. My next guest is Baylee Joy Martin. Now she is Miss Ohio volunteer, 24-year-old flight attendant with American Airlines, which I told Baylee I'm actually flying over to Tennessee on, so that's a bit of a coincidence. With her undergraduate degree in psychology, Baylee Joy is passionate about helping young people navigate mental health crises successfully by sharing her narrative and by teaching teens to utilize life-saving skills. In her free time, Baylee Joy loves to experience life to the fullest, from learning ventriloquism, crawling through the longest cave in the world. I've only just read this now. Okay. Traveling across the US as a nomad and even breaking 3 Guinness World Records. Baylee Joy, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm really good. You're going to need to explain some of this stuff. So why don't we start with the longest? Was this part of pageant training, going through the longest cave in the world? What happened there?
So I at the time was I had just got back from this job. I had worked at Disney World as a character performer for a year, and I had experienced what make believe, what fairy tales were like for a year of my life, and I wanted to experience real in the most real and authentic, down to earth, salt of the earth way. So I got in my car and I started driving across the US and just seeing what I could find. And on my way, I found out that the longest cave in the world is in the United States and it's in Kentucky. It's Mammoth Cave. And so I wasn't too far from a friend that I knew who lived around this part. And I asked if she'd be down to do something kind of crazy with me. And she said, yeah, sure. But she never asked what it was. So she shows up and she's like, what are you doing today? And I say, so we're crawling for 6 hours through the longest cave in the world. And she looked at me, she said, you're joking. I said, no. So we put on our boots and we joined a group of geologists who had traveled from all across the US to do this cave crawl. And it was amazing. We found out so much about the cave and wow, I mean, what a life changing experience. And I never thought I'd be able to do that because I'm afraid of the dark and spaces.
Okay, so question: how long into it did you get? Because you said it was 6 hours. How long into it before you started regretting your life choices?
Only the very end. They left the very worst tight space because they say it's different every time because this cave is a live cave, which means it's still expanding and water is moving through it. So there are some parts you can access on certain days and some parts you can't access on certain days. So they left the worst part for the end. My head was sideways and I couldn't move my head this way. That's how tight it was, and my arms were pressed up against the wall and my top and my back right up against it, and I was like a little frog shimmying, and I was in a line of people, and I thought to myself, I'm like, what if I can't get out of here? And I was like, well, the only way is out or I just stay here, and I really don't want to stay here, so I just got to keep moving.
A lot of people, their worst fear is to be buried underground. Did it ever cross your mind? You said it's a live cave. Like if it is alive in the wrong way and it shuts, you're inside. It's 6 hours into it. Did that ever cross your mind? It's crossing my mind right now.
Right. I have never really been, well, I'm not going to lie, I've been afraid of some things. There are some things that I'm afraid of. But
Right.
there's this little phrase that lives in my head that my papa always told me. He'd show up at our house and he has all these little catchphrases, but my favorite is, I'm just gonna live until I die. I'm just gonna live until I die. I'm not gonna be holding back on life, afraid of what could possibly happen, because anything could happen. I'm a flight attendant, I fly all the time. People are afraid of flying now. I'm just gonna live until I die.
Your middle name, the joy part, is very appropriate in this case. We're seeking out the joy every day. Tell us about the not just 1 Guinness World Record, but the 3 Guinness World
Yes.
Records.
So I come from like a really small town that many people haven't heard of. It's Portsmouth, Ohio. And we are actually a Hallmark Christmas town. I don't know how that happened, but I guess Hallmark stopped by and said, this looks like one of the towns from our movies. And the town really took that. We were like, oh, we're so special. We're a Hallmark Christmas town. We've got to really embellish this. Let's lean into it. So we started having ice skating and all these wonderful winter festivities, and we started deciding to break Guinness World Records. So my three Guinness World Records, I should really have four for like the three like lamest Guinness
Yeah.
World Records of all time. But there are most people potting plants all at once, most people Christmas caroling all at once, and most people wrapping presents all at once. And I want to get more. I want to be like the person with the most Guinness World Records ever. That's like a little of mine.
When you said rapping, I thought, and then you said wrapping presents, I thought for a minute you were going to say most people rapping, and I was like, I wonder, I wonder how that looks. But just because I don't know about these Guinness World Records, how many people roughly were in each? Are we talking 10, 100, 1,000? How
Over
many?
3,000. Like, people come together for this. And I think that that's a really special part of my story. Like, I come from a town where everybody knows everybody, like small town USA. And it's very take care of your neighbor, love thy neighbor type feeling and vibe. Everyone that you don't know is just a friend that you haven't met yet, and they probably know someone that you know. So, there's really this tight knit community across strangers whenever you're shopping at the Walmart. And I love that. And I think that that has really instilled in me just a genuine care for people, for strangers, for everyone I meet, because that's the way I was raised.
Can I ask then? I mean, it sounds, I've heard a lot about Southern hospitality, and one of the reasons that I wanted to head over to Miss Volunteer America was to experience that firsthand. I've interviewed a lot of people around the world, and I realized that the people I was interviewing from the South, they're all like really friendly and really nice. Not to say the other people weren't, but there is that Southern hospitality. But obviously, as a flight attendant, I'm imagining you're not just flying to Southern states, you're flying to different places. What is it like for yourself as a girl from a small town where everyone is friendly, everyone knows you, everyone's a friend you haven't met yet? When you go to other places, because I got to imagine it's not always like that, is it?
No, it's not. And I think specifically during travel, I have my degree, my undergraduate degree in psychology. Something that I'm noticing is that people are literally in fight or flight. And I think that's kind of funny because you're at an airport, but tension is raised. Where's my bag? Am I making it on time? Where are we going? My connection. Oh my gosh. And you're out of control. You step into the airport from the moment you step into the airport and you hand your bag over to somebody. Your belongings are not your own. Your schedule is not your own. You're playing by a game that you are hands off
Yeah.
in, and it's terrifying for so many people. Now, my job is to recognize that, to say, okay, I know that what you're experiencing right now is really scary. And I'm here to be your friend, not your enemy. Now, by the time you get to me, you might feel very differently, but my job is to change your mind. And even if you've decided so that I am your enemy, I'm here to be your friend anyway. I'm here to help you get through it.
See, that's really true. I've never actually thought about it because I love flying. I've flown a plane myself a few times. I always wanted to be a pilot. I love flying. But I don't like flying, if that makes sense, because I get anxious. The moment I get to, first off, you're worried if you don't get there early enough, am I going to miss my flight? Then you hand over your baggage, and you've heard all these stories about people losing your baggage. Then if you're heading overseas and you lose your baggage, it's like, well, what am I going to do? Then it's like, I need a mobile phone, I need this and this. So I get when you're saying like anxiety levels raise as soon as you're at the airport. What is it like when you have to be this really friendly person? And some of these people maybe are slightly anxious. What's that like? Do they respond to you well? Are some of them like, what are some of the weird requests you've gotten? I don't know if that ever happens.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've had some weird requests for sure. People just coming on and telling me that they're anxious. And I think that in that moment, the best thing that you can do is recognize that you can't rationalize anything for them. Fear is not a rational person who you can say, oh, don't be afraid. Or like the likelihood of anything happening. Like you can't rationalize fear. It's an emotion. It's something that's coming from right here and it's explosive. The best thing you can do is let someone know that you genuinely care about them. And you're not just doing this because it's your job, but that you hear what they're saying and that you have a real concern for them. And I think that sometimes that's hard to do in my job because it is compassion fatigue. This is a hospitality role and a safety critical role. So, just as much as I'm your friend, I'm also the authority on the aircraft to make sure your seatbelt is fastened, that you know where those exits are. And sometimes That's the last thing you want to be told. Everyone's been telling you where to go, what to do. I don't want to be told to put on my seatbelt. I don't want to pay attention to this girl. So there's just a meeting people where they're at. You just got to see people, know where they're at. And if they've got a bad attitude, I don't take it personal. I know that it's just a part of the journey.
I step onto my American Airlines flight. Are you able to tell me, the safety briefing they give you, where the exits are here, here, and how to put on your seatbelt and when the oxygen mask, will that be in person or will that be on a video screen? Just out of interest, do you know?
Yes. So for those international flights, usually on those much larger planes, they typically have something that's on a video. But whenever you're flying, let's say you were going to do Fort Worth to
It,
Memphis. Let's say that
yeah.
that was your flight. They might not have that video there. They're going to do an in-person demonstration, and there's going to be someone who plays a button, and somebody says, "Welcome to your American Airlines flight." Blah 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 blah. Here are the oxygen masks. Here's your seatbelt. And we'll be demonstrating for you.
So what are, I'm sure you've done this so many times now, it's second nature, but it's the air mask, it's the seatbelt, and the exits are here, here.
The exits, and depending on the aircraft, sometimes
Yeah.
it's your inflatable tube that you blow
Oh
into
yeah.
with your life vest. So you have that as well. My funniest story is one time, it was like the last flight of the day. I was doing my oxygen masks and it got caught in my glasses. I wear glasses, and my glasses got stuck, and it flew back, and a passenger caught my glasses in their hand. I was like, "Thank you."
I've had a few friends, a few pageant girls actually trained to be airline attendants, and a friend sent me a photo of her training, and I expect you're learning about hospitality, maybe something about safety, maybe something about customer service. She was jumping out of, I think it was like a 787, a large plane, down the inflatable slide because apparently you have to learn this as part of the training because if it happens, you need to, show no fear. Did you go through that yourself, like jumping out of airplanes down rubber slides?
Let me tell you, I was very naive when I took this job. When I started doing this, I did it because I love hospitality. I love people. I love travel. I'd lived in the same town my entire life. I'm a fifth generation student of my high school. I wanted to be the person who said, "I saw it all. I want to see it." So that was my initial kind of allure to the career. But when I got there, they did not train me on cookies and pretzels. They did not train me on the where everything is in the galley, or how you serve this drink, or cocktails to make. I didn't know any of these things. Customer service. These were really not things that I learned. These were things I was hired because I already knew how to do them. Like, Bailey, you know how to hand out a cookie and a pretzel, and you know how to be nice to people. We're not training you on that. What we're training you on is how to get people off this plane in an emergency. And that was something I had little to no experience with. So I got training in how to use a fire extinguisher, how to exit an aircraft, what to shout as we're exiting people, different types of emergency exits and pathways to get people out, what I need to do, checking for debris if we do this kind of landing or this kind of landing. I mean, it was all new to me. I remember by the third week I said, "So when are we going to talk about cookies and pretzels?" They said, "Not this week, Bailey. This week we're talking about water landings." And I'm like, "Oh, great."
I mean, you said you have to yell different things. So what are some of the things that you have to yell?
Bend over, stay down, bend over. It's like you're in your position. You're like, "Bend over, stay down, bend over, stay down." And what was funny was, at the time, I was pretty new to ventriloquism, and I was showing off. I was like, "Look, I can do it with my mouth closed." "Bend over, stay down." And everyone thought it was so funny. I started shouting all my stuff with my mouth closed. I was like, "They're gonna think it's an overhead like speaker. They won't even know it's me."
That would, if I could do ventriloquism, that would be such a easy practical joke to play on people. You could make people think no, it wasn't me talking, it was someone over there. It's like, no, I didn't hear anything. Are you hearing things? Let's go into the ventriloquism. How, why, and how do you begin learning it? Because I can't physically understand how you can speak, and I've seen you demonstrating it. Um, how do you? How do you make how do you form words without moving your lips? Like, I don't understand. So why and how?
Well, I just started really practicing in my car, and I started with the radio and listening to different songs, and just started singing those songs like this. So that was where it kind of started. But it's the very beginning was that road trip where I was living out of my car right next to Kentucky. Right after I got done crawling through that cave, I found out that the world's largest ventriloquism convention was just miles from me. I didn't know anything about ventriloquism. I loved the Muppets, and my car's name was Kermit, so I thought I'd fit right in, and I just went, not knowing anything about what was going to be there or what I would encounter. When I walked in, people started talking to me with their puppets. I have never felt so like uncomfortable before because I'm just kind of a roll with the punches kind of girl. There's not much that makes me feel like, oh, like this is out of my element. But for the first time, I felt like challenged by somebody who was a little bit like more theatrical and weird and zany than I was. And I was like, this is the place for me. I feel uncomfortable. I don't feel uncomfortable very many places. I have to understand this. I have to be a part of this. What is this? And I bought my puppet that day, not knowing how to do ventriloquism. But because I knew this was a special thing for me. There's not much I'm intimidated by, and that's why I wanted to do it because it scared me. And so I bought my puppet and I started practicing with this lady who saw me there and was like, I think I could teach you ventriloquism. And I said, really? And she said, I think I could teach you. And she's been my coach for a little over a year now. And Rita has become a permanent part of my life and my pageantry.
Right. So the puppet's name, just to make sure, the puppet's name is Rita?
Rita, like Reba McIntyre, but Rita.
Right, got it. I know you put the puppet on your hand, and that was very sneaky of you. You just brought it up. But just because I was beginning to not lose you, but I was beginning to crackle a little bit when you did that voice. So let's restart our interview. Just so
Yeah,
Baylee, Baylee, when she brought up, now I can't remember the puppet's name. I feel terrible. I feel like I've
Rita.
forgotten your children. Okay, not the, but the other one that you brought up. Is that Rita?
Oh,
No.
yes. So I have my tiny friends, Janet and Jet, that I just use on the plane because it's so hard to bring Rita everywhere. She's very high maintenance. She refuses to be in any overhead bin. She's a first class lady. She's told me multiple times she won't do it. So I bring Janet and Jet, and they don't mind setting up in the cabin with me. And this is Janet, who I happen to have. She has her little aviator pin on, so she's an honorary cabin crew member. And she helps a lot with first time flyers who may be nervous, or even individuals on spectrum. They seem to be pretty happy to see Janet on their flight.
Yep.
And she'll ask, hey, how's everybody doing? Are we excited to fly today? Where are we going? Oh, what's our favorite snack? Let's go get a snack. And they love to interact with guests on the plane. So this was something I just kind of dreamt up as a way that I could start doing my job even better.
I've never had the opportunity to interact with a puppet on my flight. Maybe that would help the 24 hours go faster. I, I hope. But so we haven't talked about pageantry yet. We probably should touch on pageantry. I'm just curious because I put up this post about, you guys packing and how can you fit everything into one suitcase. With you carrying, I don't know if that's the right word, carrying Rita around, or if does she go in a box? Does she go in your suitcase? Does she sit in the next to you? Like, how do you travel with a full time companion?
I try to find
We all go in suitcases.
everyone gets a suitcase. You get a suitcase. You get a suitcase. So these guys
Right.
go inside of my flight attendant suitcase. So they're easy. They're easy to take anywhere. Rita, she wants her own suitcase. I can't put any of my own stuff in there. It all has to be hers. She has her shoes in there, her dresses in there, her stand in there. She's very high maintenance. When I won my luggage set for my state title, she took the biggest one. She took the biggest suitcase. So I have two tiny suitcases. She's the big thing to wheel around.
Some people like they have cats or dogs, and then they spoil their cats and dogs so much, like the cat and dog is eating better than they do. I feel like this is how you treat Rita, is she lives better than you do.
She does a little bit. She gets to stay home a lot more too. We actually made a video joking. We were making our talent song, and I was working with our talent person who was like cutting the track for me. And like Rita's at home, like reading a Dolly Parton book by the fireplace, like enjoying her day off. So
Let's get into the pageant side of things. So why don't you tell everyone watching or listening how you got into pageantry in the first place?
right. Well, when I started doing pageants more seriously as an adult, I had done like some like small town Appalachian, like you're thinking maybe, I don't know if you know what Honey Boo Boo is, like really small town Appalachian pageants as a kid. Like I wore Goodwill dresses that my mom and I sized down for me to wear. Then I took a break and came back. And what really inspired me to come back was there was an opportunity where every girl was picked from their high school to represent their specific school in a big pageant. And I, at the time, not many people knew, was really battling teen depression and suicidal thoughts. And I thought, like someday I'll have something and that will make me happy. I will have that one thing. I had the lead in the school musical. I had been, pretty blessed in my life with lots of opportunities. And I just felt like, maybe once I get that, I'll be happy and
Yeah.
I won't keep feeling this way anymore. And I got my school representative and I was like, "Ugh, like, why do I still feel so empty and broken? What is wrong with me? Like, what I can't find one thing I like about myself. I can't see what they see in me. I don't see any purpose for my life. I don't understand." And it was at that time that I kind of went to my therapist at the time, and I was like, if there was a way out, I'd take it. And it was just a scary thing for an 18-year-old to say. Um, but I received treatment for my depression and my anxiety. And after leaving the treatment center, it felt like I had been sleepwalking my entire life. And for the first time, I was awake. And the trees were green and the sun was shining, and I could feel the sun shining on my skin for what felt like the first time in a really long time. And I decided that while I didn't have all the answers and I didn't know if I was going to feel this way forever, I knew I didn't want anyone else to feel the way that I had been feeling for so long in silence. So I started partnering with organizations like NAMI and with other healthcare offices to go into schools to talk to kids about starting difficult conversations around mental health and started curating a mental health first aid kit full of the tools and the resources I wish that I would have had in my moment of need. Kind of thinking about, okay, well, you scrape your knee, you get a band aid. Whenever you're enduring a mental health crisis, where's my first aid kit? What do I have on hand so that that way I'm not just aimless and I don't have anywhere to go and I don't know what to do.
It's interesting you mentioned the mental health struggles that you had. I had similar struggles probably 5, 10 years ago. I actually wrote a book about it. And I remember, like, I can look back at it now without much emotional attachment. Like, I'm very comfortable speaking about it. The book, the very first line I wrote was, "It's an interesting thing contemplating taking your own life." So I've had that, so, looking at it, and I've worked with a lot of women on mental health and been in the mental health field myself for a while, volunteered on crisis hotlines and things like that. But it's interesting because obviously you're such a joyful, bubbly person. And I think most people look at that and go, "Oh, she can't possibly be depressed, like ever. No, she must never be sad." But I look at it kind of differently because when I see someone who, see, it doesn't surprise me to hear what you just said, because when I look at someone who's capable of bringing such joy to other people, I always think they've learned to do that precisely because they don't want other people to go through what they've gone through. Like when you hear about like Robin, Williams, for example, who was such a comic genius and the struggles that he was going through, to me that doesn't surprise me anymore. Like I think, and I'll get you to give me your thoughts, but I think a lot of the time when people are super joyful, not just happy, but they're really like obsessed with making sure everyone else is having a good time, there's a reason for that. And normally, not normally, but often it's because they've been through intense pain themselves and now they don't want other people to go through it. So is that Am I somewhat on base with that? Because it doesn't surprise me when you tell me that.
I want you to know that you just like touched a deep part of my soul that lots of people really don't understand or get to see because lots of people have that question. They're like, "Oh yeah, this girl, she had depression. The girl who talks to puppets and is flying across the US and crawled through the longest cave in the world, she has mental health issues." Yeah, sure, right. And that was something that was the product of reclaiming my life. I was not any of those things for a long time. I was the girl who sat underneath the slide at recess, who felt like she didn't have a friend in the world, who wouldn't speak up, who didn't know who she was so confused and tattered and torn and just like with all this angst built up inside. I didn't have all these answers. This is a product of reaching out and saying, I don't know what to do right now and I need someone to help me. And because I did that and because I was able to take the reins back, that this has been the product. Living a fulfilling life. Living the life I never thought I would have. And it's so touching to hear you say that and to say that you see that because I mean as someone who works in mental health, I'm sure that you're used to this too. People ask hard questions. People say, "Oh, well, you're just doing that for attention." Are you sure you weren't just doing that for attention? I've had somebody ask me that, and that was something that I feared. I used to fear whenever I was first coming forward and saying, "Hey, I'm not doing well." I was afraid people would think I was putting on for show.
Yeah.
And now, as someone who has had these difficult conversations, who's taken the time to know and embrace and love myself, I'm not afraid to say, no, I really, at one point in my life, couldn't name one thing I liked about myself. And I couldn't name one friend I had. And I probably had lots of friends, but I didn't see it. It was a chemical imbalance that took over my life and told me lies and redirected me toward a path that said, there's nothing here worth living for. And that's such a scary place to be. You're absolutely right to think that there's nothing to live for, especially once you get out and you look around and you're like, wow, what a wonderful world that I get to live in.
It reminds me of when you said when you're on the plane and there's someone afraid of flying, you can't use logic. You can't say don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I think a lot of the time with mental health issues, it's the same. You can have people around you who love you, who cherish you, who want to be there for you, but there's a
Right,
part like a little devil on your shoulder that doesn't allow you to see it, and because you don't see it, you feel very alone, and it's a very scary. I think it's a very scary place for anyone to be when you are just feeling like no one in the world understands you at all. And then some very. Let me ask you, because if someone is going through it, or someone knows someone who's going through it, I think everyone who's listening or watching to this, either they've been through something similar or they will know someone because it's really that bad at the moment. Um, Roughly how long the recovery process, because it doesn't happen overnight. And a lot, for me, I think a lot of the hardest part is just acknowledging I need help. I mean, for me and a lot of people I spoke to, because when you acknowledge you need help, you're also acknowledging that something is wrong. Not that there's something wrong with you, but something is wrong. And unless you are willing
yes,
to acknowledge that, because that takes a lot of courage. Like when you said, like to say I'm not okay. That takes a lot of courage because then sometimes people, well-meaning people, will say, "What do you mean you're not okay? You got this, you got this. You
yes.
got, just go for a walk." And it's like that's not helpful. So then you shut up because you get judged when you do open up for the first time. So the recovery, like, is it ongoing? Because I think for most people it is. It's something you got to work on every day. But just how long has your journey been in this respect?
Right. Well, I was first diagnosed at the age of 16 with anxiety and depression. And while my parents knew that that was something that I was struggling with, I had not come forward to talk about any of the other symptoms, the suicidal thoughts or
Mm,
thoughts of self-harm. Those were just like the ugly parts that I didn't want to get into because it was hard enough to come forward and say one
yeah,
thing, let alone
yeah,
all of that, you
yeah,
know? I had already felt like a burden to my friends and family. I didn't want to burden them further.
yeah.
But that was a really hard thing to do, and I'm so grateful because my friend didn't give up on me, and that's what
Mm,
initially got me the help that I had. So if you're someone who's listening and you know someone who is going through something like this, it can be so easy to just give up because that person is so stubborn. I know I was. I did not want to get help. I thought I knew. I did not think anything was wrong with me. I thought that I was smarter than everyone and no one else saw what I saw, that I was
Yeah.
correct, that I was broken, that I was unlovable. But that person did not give up on me and he said, "You're wrong." I think that whenever you're talking to people who have experienced something like this, it's like an unbreakable bond. It's like it's not a trauma bond because you're on the other side. It's like the opposite of a trauma bond. It's like a victory bond. Like you've overcome something that only
Yeah.
someone else can relate to, and it's probably the most beautiful experience to share with someone to know that you both made it out on the other side. Now, you were asking me if I what I think about my treatment if it was kind of like a
Well, you
lifelong.
were talking about your friend who, I mean, we can just get straight back into it because you were
Yes.
saying that you had a friend who said you were wrong. And you see, I think a lot of the time, because I wrote about this in the book, because a lot of times when a friend says they're depressed or they're going through something, or you think like that they might be going through something, a lot of people get worried because like, oh, I'm not a psychologist. Like, what do I say? And I tell people it's not about saying the right thing. There's not going to be one thing that you can say that makes them magically better like that. The
Right.
only thing you can really do is listen, but you don't listen to judge. You don't listen to answer. You just listen to understand and try to empathize. That was really what was important to me. But you said you had a friend who, and they also had to have a bit of a backbone to say, no, Bailey, you're not smarter than everyone else. You're wrong. You need to get help.
Yeah, I remember, that was something that I think it was based on a little bit of ego too. I had a huge ego back then. I really thought that I was onto something that nobody else knew, like that everyone else was wrong and I was right. And I remember even when I got to the hospital and realized that there was something wrong with me, they were like, "Well, what brings you here?" And I was so smart about it. I'm not this person anymore. But because talking to me, you would never think I would say this, but I remember I looked at them and I said, "Well, they sent me because they couldn't bring everybody else." I said that to
Like,
my physician. I
ooh,
I mean, I am totally not that person now, but I remember I was angry. I was so angry at the
yeah,
world. I was angry at
yeah,
myself. I was angry because I didn't have any of the answers and I was frustrated and that people kept saying they were gonna help me and I thought I knew there was no help. That there was no help for me and that I was broken and there was not going to be anything that they could do. And because someone had the patience to sit there and to
yeah,
hear everything that I had said, I had already made up in my mind and to still say and listen. And their response every time was just, "No, no, you're wrong. And you need to tell someone." And that's when my battle began, because at that moment, it wasn't a battle. It was depression had decided that it had won, and I had decided that it had won, and it was not a knockout, drag out fight. It was me deciding that this was the life that I didn't wanna live anymore, and because somebody's told me that I was wrong and that there was an option to fight, that was the moment that it began. And I think that while now I don't have those thoughts, I don't think that there's anything broken or wrong about me. I mean, I don't think I'm a perfect person. I'm still growing, that's for sure. But oh my gosh, I love the life that I get to live. I don't think I would have been able to say that back then. I didn't think that there was a life scenario that I could imagine that I was excited about living about. And when I finally got out of that hospital, I made a promise to myself, um, not a part of me was afraid to ever go back. I never wanted to go back, but I knew I couldn't make that promise because that wasn't fair. But what I could promise was that I was going to wake up every day and chase a life that I was excited about living about, a life that I was excited to live, essentially. 'Cause I couldn't have imagined that before. I couldn't create a scenario in my mind that I was excited to live. And I didn't know when I left what that would look like. I didn't know that it meant ventriloquism, that it meant working at Disney World, that it meant pageantry, that it meant anything, living out of my car, crawling through the longest queue in the world. I couldn't envision it at the time, but I just knew that I was chasing it and I wasn't ready to give up. And so that's how I've curated such an incredible life. And I'm so grateful because it's like every day I wake up and I think, oh my gosh, like we're really doing the thing that we never thought we could. Like we're
Yeah.
waking up. It not the extraordinary things I've been able to accomplish, the act of waking up in the morning and doing it again. That's what I never thought I could do. And I'm managing to do that with my friends, my family, my life I've curated, and it's just such a blessing.
It's fortunate that you had a friend like that who was stubborn enough not to give up on you. Not everyone is so fortunate. And I think people listening to it will, because I want people to hear sort of the battle that you had, not even necessarily with depression, but it was like you're battling yourself very
Yes.
often. And you mentioned the ego. I think the intelligence comes into it as well. And very often the intelligence is your worst enemy because you think, oh no, you're wrong. I know better than you. You don't know what it's like to be me. And you're so sure that you're different, not in a way, but that you're different from everyone else, that no one could understand what you're going through, and that you see things that no one else does. And you just need someone to
Yes.
sit you down and say, what on earth are you talking about? Like, you are human at the end of the day, right? But it's so weird. You can get so in your head and you become your own worst enemy. I mean, often they will ask people, if you could go back to your younger self, what would you say? Like you said, you were diagnosed at 16, and obviously you are living a completely different sort of life internally and externally to where you were then. Have you given any thought to what you would say to that young, stubborn Baylee Joy who was so sure the world was against her?
I mean, the thing is this, I mean, I this is gonna sound funny. It would feel like I'm talking to someone who's much smarter than me because she would think that she's much smarter than me because she thought she was smarter than everyone. But I think I just wanna hug her. I mean, I
Mm,
don't think she ever took the time to like herself. I don't think she thought it was possible. And if she could know that I love her, that we love us, oh, like that would have changed so much for her. I don't think she thought she had the capacity. And, I've had a lot of people ask me, like, what do you think you could have done different? What would you want to do different? Somebody recently said, if you would have done all of the things that you're doing now, if you would have been volunteering, like, you would have never felt that way. And I don't know if I feel that way completely. I think it was definitely a chemical imbalance and something I needed some professional help with, and kind of a culmination of a lot of things. But I will say this, something that saved my life was volunteering.
mm,
Volunteering saved my life. 100%. When I didn't know what to do, where to go, what my narrative was, what was going to become of me, what I did know was no one deserved to feel this way. Wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy to have
mm.
lived through what I had lived through and to have done it alone and clueless and without resources. And so I asked myself, how do I make my life about ensuring that no one else has to do that? And I think that that's the call of pageantry, the call of volunteering, the call of this system that I'm so grateful to be a part of. It charges you with the question of, how do you make your mess your message? What do you bring to the table? What are you going to do to not just change your life, but to use it to change the lives of others? And at the time, the answer was, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But the action that followed was a step in the right direction. One more step, one more day, one more day, one more day. And before I knew it, I was waking up and I was living a life I'd never dreamed. And I was having people stop me on vacation to show me their bracelets from community service events that I had spoken at, telling me I'd saved their son's life. I'd saved their life. I'd saved their friend's life. That they were talking about difficult conversations at family dinner, things that I wish that I would have been able to do whenever I was struggling. And if it helped one person, that's enough for me. That's enough.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when you hear, I don't know, even compliments is a right word, but when you have people come up to you and they say something like that, I mean, I remember being on we have a crisis hotline here, and I remember very vividly. It's one of those moments you'll never forget when I heard there was a young woman probably about your age, on the other side of the phone, and she was panicked. She had pulled over to the side of the road because her partner was going crazy and she was afraid for her life. And when you sit down and you take the time to listen and help someone going through that, it's very hard then to feel sorry for yourself or to judge yourself, because you take that focus away from what is it that I don't have, what is wrong with me, to I need to be present for this other person and help them. And people will have all this sort of coaching advice and psychological advice. It's all well and good, but sometimes I just say, go and help someone else, because it shifts your perspective and no one will fix you. It's just by helping the other person, you are helping yourself. And I think that's the greatest part about volunteering. And what I love about, I mean, literally in the name, isn't it, Miss Volunteer America?
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that more people need to experience. Is we can get very, especially in pageantry and social media and all that, we can get so focused in on ourselves. Like, I make a post, why is no one liking it? This is not fair. And that stuff, you're a bit frustrated. For me, it wasn't just frustrated, it was resentful. I didn't like how other people seemed to have it so easy, or was, they were happy. It's like, oh, easy for you to be happy because you're dumb, you don't get it. And these weird conversations you have in your own head. And when you say it out loud, it sounds really terrible and stupid.
Crazy.
But that's the way that you're thinking, right? That people have to understand this is the way that the person is thinking. And so volunteering, whether it's in a soup kitchen, on a crisis hotline, whenever it is, it really makes a huge impact. I mean, you're testimony to that, aren't you?
Yes, I really feel that way. And you know what's funny is I hadn't really realized that until I started looking back and really thinking about what has been the page turner, what started a
Mm,
new chapter for me. It was volunteering, and it's the people that I've met through volunteering,
yeah.
because I think without even knowing it, people who are drawn to helping people are people who know, who've
Mm,
seen too much,
yeah.
who've lived that life, who've been in those shoes. And as I'm volunteering with our national partners, St. Jude and Salvation Army, I'm encountering people with their own rich history, their own story of
Mm,
why they choose to volunteer. And it's creating that community. We talked about, it's a level deeper than trauma bond. It's not a trauma bond, it's survivor bond.
yeah.
You're coming together with someone who made it out on the other side, and it's like a celebration, and it feels so good to know that someone else did it too.
I do think it also helps with having a sense of humor. I think
Yeah.
there's a certain sense of humor that people who've been through it and survived and made it out, they don't take themselves too seriously, because, I mean, how could you after having been through that? But I remember seeing a post, I think it might have been from Berkeley. She was volunteering somewhere and she worked with a Salvation Army member who'd been volunteering for 30 years. Like 30 years at the same soup kitchen. And you just think, a lot of you listening to this, I haven't been alive for 30 years. But, to be, and, that just said, you don't need to say anything else, do you, about that person? The fact that they've been volunteering at the same soup kitchen for 30 years, you immediately have my utmost respect. Not that you're a perfect person, but to be giving so, selflessly for so long to people who really need it, that just says the world about you. I mean, I don't know if you've given any thought to this, but obviously you're someone who lives a very busy and full life. If you were to walk away with the Miss Volunteer America crown, what are you going to do with it? I hope you're not going to take it through that cave. It might get. I don't think it wants to go through a cave. But have you given any thought to what you're going to do with your year of reign if you are so fortunate?
I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing. Isn't that kind of a weird thing to think? Like, I always thought, oh, whenever I reach the threshold of this, everything's going to change. I realized during my time as a state title holder, things don't change just because you get an upgrade on a sparkly crown and sash.
Yeah.
What you do is the same charge that you've had all along. You can do as a local state title holder or just a regular person the same things that you have the capacity to do with a bigger crown and a bigger sash. So what I do during my time as a American Airlines flight attendant on my overnights, I look for the local Salvation Army, and I go and I help them with their pantry. I clean out. I look for whatever resources they need. I have a fund that I have people donate to, so that whenever I'm flying, I have the ability to call and say, hey, what do you guys need at the pantry right now? I'd love to stop by the store and grab some things for you. Usually it's women's hygiene products.
Yeah.
And I want to go above and beyond to make sure that I'm not just serving when I'm available, I'm serving when I'm unavailable, wherever I am, whatever I do. That reminds me of something I heard whenever I was camping as a kid. So, whether you eat or drink or whatsoever you do it all for the glory of God. I want to do everything so that when my actions show up in a room, when someone sees me working a flight, working at the Salvation Army, getting a child as Miss Volunteer America, or for right now, Miss Ohio Volunteer, they get to see the hands and feet of Jesus. Like, I don't
Mm,
need to tell you that I know Jesus. I want to show you. And
mm.
that's what I want to do as Miss Volunteer America. I want to be the hands and feet at Salvation Army, whether I'm traveling and in my flight attendant uniform or one of our beautiful sponsored dresses that we're able to wear as Miss Volunteer America. That's what I aspire to do. I want to travel around and make sure that everybody sees me. I want to create that sisterhood, that fellowship, so that whenever I show up somewhere, I'm not a stranger, I'm already your friend, kind of like here in my hometown. That sort of dynamic.
It is much easier to say good things than it is to do good things. I think you look at what someone does, you don't necessarily listen to what they say. So it's a point well taken. I remember because just before we jumped on the interview, Instagram said, "Oh, Baylee Joy posted something on Threads you might want to watch," and then I saw your video about the handwritten letters, and I thought, isn't that interesting? Because to me, the most meaningful thing, and this is a bit silly, this is about a bit sentimental, but I keep handwritten letters. Even from like back when I was a teenager growing up, people would send me cards, and I still have them now because to me, there's nothing like, I don't know if you keep them, I do. You go back and you read them again, and it's not just the words on a page. You're transported back to an entire world of how was I feeling at that time, your friendship with that person. Maybe you haven't spoken to them for a while and said like, oh, I should really check in on this person that I haven't spoken to for years. And the hand, I mean, my handwriting is atrocious, especially now that everything is AI, this and computer, that I can't write to save my life anymore. But do you want to tell people about that video? Because I thought it was a really interesting video.
You know, I don't really know what this video is. I don't think I have. That's not my video, I don't think.
The one where you're asking people to send you handwritten letters.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. So my very first pageant that I ever did, my mom had my family members and my friends and random people, I didn't know she did this, had, like handwritten letters for me to open throughout the week. And little boxes. My mom had a box Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, that every day I could unlock and there would be more handwritten letters. Through the week, I still had handwritten letters left over. And I was so grateful. And I took all of these and I did save them. And I don't know if this is what inspired my mom to do this, but when I was in the hospital, every kid from my school wrote me a handwritten letter.
Oh,
And when I got home, I hung them all around my room. You couldn't see any of my wall because I had hung all of the letters from my teachers and my friends of all of the encouraging words I had received. And I think that you're right. That handwritten letter or a picture of something really stupid and silly that you get to laugh at is the most beautiful and authentic thing that you can give to someone. It's a piece of your soul that you
mm,
took the time to write and articulate how someone makes you feel or something that you felt like was worth sharing that made you smile. We don't really have that anymore. I feel like for
mm.
Instagram, for Facebook, for our social medias, we put on our
Yeah,
hats. We put
yeah,
on what we think people want to see. What do you want to see? What do you want to see? And I think with a handwritten letter, we have the opportunity. What do I want to share? What do I really, and it's not for everyone, it's just for you.
yeah.
Something that I wanted just for you to see. So that is something that I think would be really meaningful to carry forth into Miss Volunteer America. Anyone who feels the time to curate something like that for me, I really hold that in a really special place in my heart.
Now we've been talking for a while.
I
In
love
in
talking to
sev
you. I'm sorry. I
No,
really
no,
do.
I'm not saying for that, but I just want to be cognizant of your time, and also people may not watch a 5 hour interview. But I always wrap up with the same 10 questions. And as I mentioned to you, it's been a while since I've done an interview. I'm going to have to try my best to even remember what they were
I'm
because I'm
ready.
now panicking that I didn't remind myself. Before we go to the final 10, I'd like to give you guys a chance to give a shout out or to say thank you to any sponsors or family members who've been there for you, who have been supporting your journey. So is there anyone that you'd like to give a thank you to or shout out to before we get to our final 10?
That is such a long list. That's so hard. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna isolate to one person right now, which has been my director. I came in the year telling her exactly what I needed, which is I am a racehorse. I'm like Secretariat. I need someone who's on my back who's going to let me run my race. I need somebody who has a good crop, who's ready to like let me run, but also encourage me to run true and hard and fast. That's who I am. And I think that I wouldn't have had the year that I've had without the support that I've been given. And I'm grateful that pageantry puts me in a position to encounter women who want to set other women up for success because I
Mm.
think that we're living in a society becoming becoming very rare where we find other women who want to uplift women, inspire women, create pathways for women to succeed because we're all grasping at straws for a seat at the table ourselves is sometimes how it feels. So to have someone who's pulling out a chair for me, who's saying, "Hey, what can I get you anything?" is such a valuable thing that I think really you get to have almost not completely exclusively, but it feels almost exclusively in pageantry, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to know her and to work with her.
What is your director's name?
Her name is Renee Brown.
Okay.
Incredible.
That is no, it makes a world of difference to have a supportive director. I often tell pageant girls, your experience of the pageant is going to be your director. Doesn't matter how
Oh,
good the
yes.
pageant sounds on paper. If the director is not, not on your side, you're going to feel it. And if they are on your side, you're going to notice a world of difference. So I'm glad to hear your director's been part of the team. Okay, let me see if I can remember these 10 final questions. Okay, bear with me. Number one, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word? Passion. 'Cause I thought for a really long time I wouldn't be passionate about everything, anything. I felt really, like, empty and, like, sleepy and like I didn't have anything to offer, but I feel so passionate about so many things now, people in my life, opportunities. I wanna live a passionate life. So that's my word.
Number two, what is your least favorite word?
Hate. Hate anything. Don't hate anything. It takes so much more energy to hate something than it does to just be dismissive of it. I don't have time, I don't have energy to hate anything. I don't wanna spend time doing it, and if I catch myself hating something, I'm very I like to go out of my way to question what is valuable about this thing that I'm really disliking right now. There's something valuable about this. There's someone who loves this, someone who this is their favorite thing. What is that, and how do I find that?
Number three, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
Everything. Everyone says this all the time. They're like, "Bailey, you're so excited." And I'm like, "I know. I'm just excited to be alive." Like, I know that sounds really silly, but for me, it's not an opportunity I thought I'd have. So I really am excited about everything. Something new, something old, something beloved, something that everyone doesn't understand. I'm excited to understand it, to sit down and to learn about it. I really, everything excites me.
That was a very genuine answer, by the way. Just- All right, so that was number three. We'll get to what turns you on. Question four is what turns you off?
Oh, no. Ooh, I've this is one thing that I strongly dislike that I'm really trying to find some positives about. People who feel very adversely, people who are not excited about anything, who hate everything, people who have decided they do not like anything right now, and they feel very strongly that there's nothing to be excited about. And a way that I have decided to overcome this, I have a lot of grace for those people because I was them. And that was the girl who thought she knew everything. And I love her, and if I could, I'd give her a hug. So instead, I'm trying to give these people a hug. Whether they will let me, that is another question. So I'm trying to verbally and emotionally give them a hug when I encounter those people.
Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
I really love like ASMR, like tingles and taps. I know that that's really silly, but I'm a person who lives a very loud, on the go, zoom, 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 zoom kind of life. So it kind of helps me to kind of calm down with some really simple noises. Now, whether that's like someone actually like tapping on something and it's quiet, and you all you hear is tapping, or like crickets outside, or really ambient music, things that are quiet bring me a lot of peace.
It's funny you mentioned that because I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan of ASMR, but I do have a white noise machine because I find I can't fall asleep in like complete silence. And my favorite sound, believe it or not, is the sound of an airplane engine. You know, when you're in the airplane cockpit and you can hear the sound of the engine outside, that sound, it puts me to sleep. I don't know why. It makes me feel like I'm on my way to go somewhere, have an adventure. So for some reason, the sound of an airplane engine, for most people, be like, oh, that's so loud. I mean, I'm not from the outside, but the inside, that sound puts me to sleep.
So many people feel that way. You're not alone. So one of the hardest parts about when I first started flying was that I felt super sleepy from the airplane engines in the back, and it was taking everything in me to stay awake. So I'm like in my brace position, which is like this, like trying to stay awake. Like it's terrible.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm not alone then. Um, number that was number 5. Number 6, what sound or noise do you hate? I know you don't like the word hate, but what sound or
I
noise
don't
do you
know.
dislike?
Um, People arguing. Oh, I hate that, and I encountered it so much in my job. I encounter it so much in my job. People come up with, like, these really harsh tones. They're ready to get in this really hard conversation. I hate that, and I don't wanna be that person either, so I always do my best to de-escalate because I
Yeah.
can't do an argument. I won't win. I don't like it.
Yeah, I often feel that most arguments, there's no point to them. Like this, like why are you guys arguing about this? Like it really doesn't matter. Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Well, I already fly, so
I was
I
going to say
already
that one
fly.
would be a bit redundant.
I'm back. Teleportation would be what it's called, but I don't think I wanna teleport. What it would be for me probably is being invisible. Sometimes I don't get a lot of time to myself. It would be really nice to be able to have some time with myself. I promise that my superpower is not teleporting off of this Zoom call, even though it seems like it is. It would be being invisible because I feel like I'm always seen all the time, and it would be nice to have some time to myself.
I mean, if you drop off one more time, I am going to be convinced that you are invisible because I'm just talking to myself.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for your patience. Also, thank you.
I you cannot believe how grateful I am right now that I decided not to do my interviews live anymore because can you imagine if I was live? Oh my
You'd be
god.
like, "What is going on?"
I'd be like, why did I decide to start interviewing again? Never again. Okay.
I'm so sorry that
Um
I'm like the interview from like your nightmares.
well, I mean the conversation has been great. So I give you
Yeah.
a pass for that. I would rather have a great conversation and horrific technical difficulties than have a really good connection and just have nothing to talk about. So let's look at it that way.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad.
That being said, please try to stay on the line. Okay. No, that was number 7. So number 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Hard. My dream job is to be an industrial psychologist. So I want to go into businesses and help them perform the most efficiently while also valuing employees and making employees feel taken care of because I really love, I would say my biggest strength is that I love to take care of people. And I want to show businesses that these are not two adverse priorities. Being a business that is profitable can also be a business that values its employees and has high employee retention rates. And I am really passionate about this, and I've learned a lot about it in a lot of my roles as a performer within a really large multi-billion-dollar company and flight attendant for, again, a huge airline that is traveling and being with so many different people from different walks of life. I'm really grateful for the skill set that I've been able to go ahead and, I don't know what the right word is, but apprehend from all of these different roles as I'm
Yeah.
searching toward my dream job.
Number 9, what job would you least like to attempt?
Hmm. Oh, really hard. I think that I my mom told me every day getting off the school bus before she dropped me off at school, whatever you are, be a good one.
Hmm.
And that has stayed with me my entire life. Even on my bad days, my terrible days, I want to be the best. And if I don't like something, it's like Mary Poppins, like the job's a game. Like I want to be the best. I want to be good and I want to enjoy everything I'm doing. It's all a challenge. And I'm here to rise to the challenge. I'm not here to be a complainer. I'm here to be a team player and to be the best. So I don't think that job exists.
Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I loved you the whole time. Ah, gosh, I don't know why I'm so emotional about that. Because that's something that I, like, know to be true now, but for, like, a long time, I remember looking out at the stars at night and thinking, like, "What why did you make me? Like, what is my purpose? I don't understand why you did this. What a terrible joke. What a terrible mistake." And so just something to the tune of, "I loved you the whole time," or do you see the plan now? Like, do you get what I was trying to do there? Like, I hope you see what I was trying to do. Like, and yeah, that would be I would be really excited for that moment. And just a hug. A hug would be nice.
Have you heard that saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans?
Yes, yes, yes.
That is so true. It's no matter, and being in pageantry, you're around a lot of A-type people who, you know, women who make plans and make things happen. But every now and then, you
Yes.
do need that element of grace, and a bit of spontaneity, because very often things don't go according to plans. Um, but yeah, this has been a whirlwind. We've shed a few tears,
Yeah.
Bailey Joy. But thank you so much for coming on and going on other. I don't know how many phones you're on now.
Let me tell you, every phone that is in this building has been utilized.
There's absolutely nothing left. Well, I mean, aside from that, I'll be seeing you in about a month's time. Best of luck at the competition. I'm sure I'll see you there. But yeah, best of luck and thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I want you to know that this has been such a gift for me just talking with you. I love conversations like this. You don't get to talk to people about things like this every day. And it's really been a gift to be here with you. And I thank you again for this opportunity, despite it might seem that I would rather not be on this call.